Welcome back. You're watching WION World is One. This is World DNA, the show that gets you ahead of the rest. I'm Shivan Chandna.
And I'm Jyotsna Kumar. And on the show today, Chinese startup DeepSeek said that it was temporarily limiting registrations due to a large-scale malicious attack on its services. Now, this comes after DeepSeek AI, a Chinese tech startup, last week released its open-source AI model, DeepSeek V3, which soon became the center of attraction in the global market. We'll bring you all the details on the show.
Also on World DNA from West Asia, we will get you more details. Israel said that Monday that it had arrested 2 Israelis suspected of spying for Iran, including one accused of handing the country classified information obtained during his military service. We will be bringing you the latest on that front as well, right here from West Asia. That and a lot more lined up for you right here on World DNA. Let's start with the headlines.
President Donald Trump says that the rise of low-cost Chinese AI model DeepSeek should be a wake-up call for U.S. firms as technology shares drop sharply after DeepSeek overtakes ChatGPT in downloads.
President Trump says he would sign an executive order to start building an Iron Dome air defense system for the United States, like the one that Israel uses to intercept thousands of rockets.
Islamic Jihad group releases video of Israeli civilian hostage Arbel Yehoud, who is due to be released on Thursday with 2 other captives.
White House envoy Steve Witkoff likely to meet Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman in Saudi Arabia on Tuesday. Witkoff will then visit Israel and meet Netanyahu next.
The yeas are 68, the nays are 29. The confirmation is confirmed.
Scott Bessent wins Senate approval to become U.S. Treasury Secretary, clearing the confirmation vote by 68 to 29.
U.S. new home sales hit a 3-year high in 2024, up 2.5% from the previous year. December sales also exceeded expectations, driven by high interest rates, deterring homeowners from selling.
Former Belgian international Raja Nainggolan has been arrested as part of an investigation into cocaine trafficking. The 36-year-old was one of the suspects apprehended by Belgian police after a series of raids. And the race for domination in artificial intelligence was blown wide open after a low-cost Chinese artificial intelligence model overtook U.S. giants.
On Monday, the AI assistant DeepSeek surpassed U.S. rival ChatGPT in downloads from Apple's App Store, and it took just over 2 weeks to do that. President Trump called it a wake-up call for U.S. firms. The rise of DeepSeek has wiped $1 trillion from leading U.S. tech index, triggered predictions of turmoil for Silicon Valley, and the shares of Nvidia, a leading maker of the computer chips that power AI models, fell 17%, wiping nearly $600 billion of its market value. Google's parent company lost $100 billion and Microsoft lost $7 billion. Nvidia's fall was the biggest in US stock market history.
Meanwhile, the meteoric rise invited some unwanted attention for DeepSeek. It was hit by outages on its website on Monday, with the company claiming it was targeted in large-scale malicious attacks on its services. DeepSeek temporarily limited its users' registrations, though existing users were able to log in as usual.
Little is known about the company behind DeepSeek. Developed by a Guangzhou-based startup, it was founded in May 2023 by Liang Wenfeng. However, it entered the US market months only this year. It entered on the 10th of January, which was weeks earlier now, with its latest model, DeepSeek V3. It took just over 2 weeks for it to overthrow OpenAI's ChatGPT, Google's Gemini, and other popular AI chatbots. DeepSeek has become the top-rated free application available on Apple's App Store in the US.
The company claims that they spent just under $6 million to bring DeepSeek V3 to life. The amount is nothing when compared with the billions US tech giants have poured into AI. For example, Sam Altman-led OpenAI reportedly spent over $4 billion in 2024 on AI development.
DeepSeek is an open source model, and this means anyone can access the software's code, use it, change it, and if possible, make it even better. Now, the emergence of DeepSeek comes as US and China are locked over the control of the tech world. Recently, the United States imposed restrictions on certain computer chip-making equipment, software, and high-bandwidth memory chips.
U.S. President Donald Trump was quick to take note of the rise of DeepSeek. He said that DeepSeek should be a wake-up call for American industries, that we need to be laser-focused on competing to win. Trump said that the shock could also be positive for Silicon Valley by forcing it to innovate more cheaply. And to discuss more, we're now being joined by Adrian Mars. He is a tech journalist and is live with us from London. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Hi there. Hi, Shivan. And yeah.
Right. And it's extremely interesting how all these Chinese apps and AI is taking over. We know that they tried to ban TikTok, then we got Red Note for TikTok refugees, as they said, and now we've got AI DeepSeek. What do you have to say on this?
Well, yes, China has a huge amount of talent. It's got it's got more graduates than the West, but they've given this away to the world. I think the reaction by the stock market is an overreaction. This will really benefit the open source world, and that includes Meta, who have open sourced their own AI model, so they're free to build on this. OpenAI, the producer of ChatGPT, they've said that although theirs is closed source at the moment, they in the future may open source it. So for those companies, it could be a huge benefit. Now, the big question is have they then overspent in this huge amount of infrastructure that's needed to run their models? They're running things by brute force rather than this incredibly algorithmically efficient, basically just very efficient model that doesn't need so much computing, which seems to be a result of not selling China the best chips. So it looks like that export ban has backfired. But if it's produced this and it gives everybody this technology to use, and most of it's open source, there is some secret source that we still don't know, but it should be enough to build on. This may boost the whole industry, and it may be that the people with all of the huge amounts of infrastructure are actually in a much better position, because that means that you can offer AI for a lot less, and that opens a lot more use cases up, and it also maybe means you can do a lot more with this sort of approach and a lot of computing power.
Adrian, given the kind of competition that it has spurred, the kind of impact that it has already had on the US economy, the figures that we're seeing from all these tech giants, the way their stocks have tumbled, I wanted to understand from you, is this the new war? AI supremacy, the way it's driving geopolitics and economy, is this going to be the new war front?
Well, it remains to be seen whether all of these AI developments will actually lead to the massively disruptive technology that will change the world. At the moment, it hasn't. There's vast amounts being spent and people are using it, but it hasn't changed anything that dramatically. It hasn't been disruptive all that so far. And it could just be that these things are going to run into a bit of a brick wall at some point. There's fears, for instance, that we're running into the limits of how much information there is to train these models, and that may be a limiting factor. But reducing the cost of them should open up more uses, and doing it better than the others also opens up more uses.
Yes,
but I think that's still an open question. Nobody quite knows where all this is going yet.
Adrian, I also wanted to come in there. The impact that it is having, and we've seen the same question posed on human rights in terms of the two different AIs, and there were different answers which came in from ChatGPT and a different one which came in from DeepSeek. It also makes you question what kind of agenda or thought process it's going to inflict upon all the users. And as we can gauge, there are more and more users switching from ChatGPT towards DeepSeek, or at least that's what the figures indicate as of now on the US App Store as on itself. So what kind of impact will that have?
Well, if you ask it questions about Tiananmen Square or Taiwan, then it doesn't actually think about it. They're hard-coded responses. So they've been sort of pre-written, effectively, to come up with the right response. Now, if other people reuse that model, they will no doubt take out those hard-coded responses. Other Western models also have hard-coded things. So they want to stop you asking immoral questions. How do I rape somebody or commit a bank robbery and things? And actually, this model doesn't seem to be hard-coded for the moral stuff. From the tests I've seen so far, it will tell you how to rob a bank. But these aren't critical. Certainly, if you're using the stock, one that they're providing, then you will get on some questions, as you would expect from China, because otherwise it frankly wouldn't be allowed, the Chinese, censored results. Whether it'll be more subtle than that, I don't think that's the case. So it doesn't seem to be skewed in terms of sort of how it thinks towards China. It's only where somebody has said, if it's asked this, just pretty well say that.
All right, Adrian. Thank you so much for joining us here on World DNA. Pleasure speaking with you. That was Adrian Mars joining us from London.
And we move on to our next story. We cover the West Asia now. Palestinian militant group Islamic Jihad has released video footage of Israeli hostage Arbel Yehoud, who is due to be released on Thursday.
ארבל יהוד, תעודת זהות שלי 315 369.
In the 1-minute video, Yehoud appears distressed as she states her identity and says the date is January 25th, which means the video could have been filmed on Saturday. Now, Yehoud reassures her family that she is okay and says she hopes to return home soon like the other girls.
In the video, further, she calls on Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to do everything in his power to secure the release of the remaining hostages in Gaza. Arbel Yehoud was supposed to be released last Saturday, but Hamas instead released 4 IDF surveillance soldiers.
Following this, Israel blocked the return of Palestinians to northern Gaza. Later, Israel announced that the dispute has been resolved and the militant group is set to release 6 hostages in 2 batches this week, including Yehoud and the last remaining civilian soldier, Agam Berger. Masses of displaced Palestinians returned to the north of the war-ravaged Gaza Strip after Israel and Hamas reached a deal for the release of 6 more hostages. A sea of people was seen moving through the Netzarim corridor into the north, and they were watched over by Israeli tanks. Late on Monday, the Hamas authorities said more than 300,000 displaced had returned during the day to the north.
Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio held a call with Jordan's King Abdullah. The State Department said the Secretary and King Abdullah discussed implementation of the ceasefire agreement in Gaza and the release of hostages, and also creating a pathway for security and stability in the region. The call came 2 days after a suggestion by President Donald Trump that Jordan and Egypt should take more Palestinians from Gaza.
Now, as per US officials, Prime Minister Netanyahu is hoping to meet with President Trump in Washington as early as next week, and the details of the meeting could be arranged when Trump's special West Asia envoy Steve Witkoff travels to Israel this week for talks. Witkoff will be visiting Israel on Wednesday to keep focusing on the ceasefire agreement.
And furthermore, the Israeli military on Monday said that it eliminated over 15 terrorists and arrested 40 wanted people during a major raid that began last week in the occupied West Bank city of Jenin. Backed by bulldozers and warplanes, the military launched last Tuesday its Iron Wall operation in Jenin and its adjacent refugee camp.
According to Palestinian Health Ministry, Israeli troops or settlers have killed more than 860 Palestinians in the West Bank since the start of the Gaza war, while Israeli official figures say at least 29 Israelis have been killed in Palestinian attacks during Israeli military raids in the territory over the same period.
Meanwhile, in the occupied West Bank city of Tulkarem, an Israeli airstrike killed 2 Hamas fighters on Monday. Palestinian news agency Wafa identified the 2 killed as Ramez Damiri and Ihab Abu. According to the Israeli military, Abu Atwi was Hamas chief in Tulkarem, responsible for numerous armed attacks.
Lebanon's health ministry says that Israeli fire has killed 2 people and injured 17 others in the south.
And this is the second day of violence as residents tried again to return to border villages. And experts say the bloodshed was unlikely to restart the war between Israel and Iran-backed Hezbollah. The violence came hours after the extension of a Sunday deadline for Israeli forces to withdraw from South Lebanon under a November ceasefire deal.
Under the deal, which took place on the 27th of November last year, the Lebanese army was to be deployed in the south of Lebanon alongside United Nations peacekeepers as the Israeli army withdrew over a 60-day period. Now, this is what was agreed upon. With the deal ending on Sunday, Israeli forces opened fire on the people returning home to the southern Lebanese part, and the first day of violence took the lives of over 20 people.
However, on Monday, people continued to return home. The Lebanese were seen inspecting their destroyed homes as they returned to the southern village of Ramia.
We paid dearly for this land. It's impossible for anyone to take it from us, no matter what. This is our land. We are returning to it, and we will stay on it.
In the city of Bin Jabil, an access point for many border villages, Hezbollah supporters distributed sweets, water and images of former Chief Hassan Nasrallah, who was killed in an Israeli airstrike in September last year. Others handed out stickers celebrating the victory from God as women held pictures of slain Hezbollah fighters.
Meanwhile, in a televised speech, Hezbollah chief Naim Qassem said that the group would not accept any justifications to extend the period given for Israeli troops' withdrawal from southern Lebanon.
لا نقبل بأي مبرر.
We do not accept any justification for extending the period by even a single moment or a single day. We do not accept any extension for the period. We have received information that the Americans are contacting Lebanese officials suggesting that the agreement be extended to February 28, meaning that Israel does not withdraw until February 28.
إلى 28 إشباط.
The Hezbollah leader also praised France over its position on the ceasefire deal, hailing the role of French President Emmanuel Macron. Qassem said Macron had called on Israel to respect and implement the agreement. He also reiterated calls for the Israeli army to withdraw from the southern border.
In another development, Israel has arrested 2 of its own citizens on the charges of spying for Iran. Among the accused, one Israeli is charged with handling the country's classified information obtained during his military service. And this marks the latest action in a series of detentions in Israel of people charged with espionage on its arch rival Iran's behalf since the summer.
In Canada, the senior ranks of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's cabinet seem to have made their choice on his replacement.
Now they're throwing their weight behind former central bank chief turned politician Mark Carney. Innovation, Industry and Science Minister François-Philippe Champagne is latest to join the bandwagon backing Carney. Defense Minister Bill Blair, Transport and Internal Trade Minister Anita Anand, and Housing Minister Nate Erskine Smith also backed Carney. Now, Carney has now secured the backing of top cabinet ministers in Trudeau's cabinet, and this is seen as a reflection of the belief that the former central banker is the best bet to counter U.S. President Donald Trump's trade threats.
Choosing Carney as Liberal Party chief is also seen as a step to boosting its electoral fortunes. For Carney himself, being elected as Liberal Party chief strengthened his position in Quebec, that is traditionally a crucial bastion for Liberal support. Mark Carney has often been credited in part for helping the country through the 2008-2009 recession. He had later also served as the Bank of England governor while the UK navigated Brexit and its economic fallout. The Liberal Party is set to pick its next leader on the 9th of March, and the party chief faces big challenges ahead. Opposition parties say they will bring the minority government down at the earliest opportunity once Parliament returns from prorogation on the 24th of March. It's an uphill battle on the election front as well. The Liberals have significantly trailed the Conservatives in polls for more than a year. The latest numbers from Nano's research has the Conservatives ahead by 24 points. And Prime Minister Modi has spoken to US President Trump over the phone.
And this is the first time the two leaders have held talks since Trump took charge as U.S. president. During the conversation, the two leaders discussed bilateral ties and emphasized their shared commitment to working together for global peace and stability.
In a post on social media, Indian Prime Minister Modi said, and I go to quote here, I'm quoting him here, "Delighted to speak with my dear friend President Donald Trump. Congratulated him on his historic second term. We are committed to a mutually beneficial and trusted partnership." Prime Minister Modi and President Trump are among the world leaders who will be attending the AI Action Summit in Paris next month. The two leaders are likely to hold talks on the sidelines of the summit. If it takes place, this will be the first in-person meeting between Modi and Trump after the US president took charge.
India is set to host Quad Summit this year. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar represented India at Donald Trump's inauguration event. Invited by the U.S., he carried a personal letter from Prime Minister Narendra Modi to Trump. Jaishankar attended the Quad Foreign Ministers meet chaired by U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Remember, Prime Minister Modi last spoke to Trump in November last year, the day the Republican leader achieved a sweeping victory in the U.S. presidential elections. The Indian Prime Minister hailed Trump 2.0 as the new president assumed charge last week. He congratulated Trump and expressed willingness to work closely with his dear friend. All right, we'll be taking a short break. We'll come back with more news on the other side. But before we go, here's a look at all the climate stories that are making headlines across the world.
biggest gathering of humanity on the planet.
This is quite an interesting spot.
WION brings you exclusive coverage from the ground of the Kumbh Mela.
These bikes will be patrolling all around.
From security to infrastructure, from tent city to Sangam, we've got you covered. This is Triveni Sangam, where Ganga, Yamuna and the mythical Saraswati rivers meet. Experience faith. Experience culture.
Tent as well.
Experience Mahakumbh. Only on WION. World is One.
After killing a governor, a military chief, and foreign peacekeepers, the dreaded M23 rebels force advance into Goma in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The United Nations raises alarm. Nigeria's authorities officially declare the Lakurawa armed group that flogs people for listening to music a terrorist organization and bans it across the country. Lakurawa is a new militant group that carries out attacks targeting local communities in northwestern Nigeria and across the border with Niger. And Japanese adventurer Gump Suzuki arrives in Cape Town at the end of a more than 6,000-kilometer journey across Africa while pulling a rickshaw. That's at these times on World of Africa. On WION, World is One.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the U.S.
And I will be here at the WION headquarters, getting you all the action from the universe of sport. All that you need to know about your favorite teams and players, right here.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of. A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA. Join the conversation.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is One.
Welcome back, viewers. You're watching World DNA with Jyotsna and I'm Shivan. Lots more on this side of the show as well. Let's start with the headlines.
Islamic Jihad group releases video of Israeli civilian hostage Arbel Yehud, who is due to be released on Thursday with 2 other captives.
President Trump says he would sign an executive order to start building an Iron Dome air defense system for the US, just like the one that Israel uses.
White House envoy Steve Witkoff likely to meet Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman in Saudi Arabia on Tuesday. Witkoff will visit Israel and meet Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu next.
The yeas are 68, the nays are 29. The confirmation is confirmed.
Scott Bessent wins Senate approval to become U.S. Treasury Secretary, clearing the confirmation vote by 68 to 29.
President Donald Trump says that the rise of low-cost Chinese AI model DeepSeek should be a wake-up call for U.S. firms as technology shares drop sharply after DeepSeek overtakes ChatGPT in downloads.
Tesla and BMW have become the latest automakers to challenge the EU's 35% import tariffs on China-made EVs. The tariffs follow an anti-subsidy probe claiming Beijing's state support unfairly hurt European automakers.
Former Belgian international Raja Nainggolan has been arrested as part of an investigation into cocaine trafficking. The 36-year-old was one of the suspects apprehended by Belgian police after a series of raids.
And India and China have agreed to resume the Kailash Mansarovar Yatra from the summer of 2025.
And this decision came during India's Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri's visit to Beijing. The two countries also decided to resume direct flights between Beijing and New Delhi after 5 years.
Well, India and China ties are on the path of improvement after many years. This is after Indian Prime Minister Modi and Chinese President Xi Jinping met in Kazan on the sidelines of the BRICS summit in October last year.
The resumption of Kailash Mansarovar Yatra is seen as a big step in this direction. The yatra involves a visit to Mount Kailash and Mansarovar Lake in Tibet and has been suspended since 2020. Now, as there was no renewal of arrangements by the Chinese side amid tensions between Beijing and New Delhi. Now, the situation escalated further after the Galwan clashes.
Now, there are 3 possible routes that Indians use to carry out to take over the Kailash Mansarovar pilgrimage. Now, Government of India organizes the Kailash Mansarovar Yatra between June and September through the 2 official routes of Lipulekh Pass in Uttarakhand and Nathula Pass in Sikkim. Now, there is another route through Nepal's Nepalganj to Mount Kailash. Misri's visit to China is a 3rd high-level meeting in a series of engagements efforts by India and China after Modi-Xi met in Kazan on the sidelines of the BRICS summit last year. Foreign ministers Dr. S. Jaishankar and Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi held talks on the sidelines of G20 in Brazil in November, shortly after the BRICS summit. And then India's National Security Advisor visited China for the 23rd round of Special Representatives talks in December.
And during Foreign Secretary's meeting with Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi, both sides agreed to take certain people-centric steps to stabilize and rebuild ties, promote and facilitate people-to-people exchanges, and also to conduct a number of commemorative activities to mark 75th anniversary.
You are the last delegation of foreign guests we receive in the year of the dragon, but this signals we'll have a new beginning. So I'd extend welcome to you in the first place and wish you success in this consultation and could reach common understandings.
We are on our way to stabilizing the relationship. I cannot overemphasize the importance of communications between our 2 countries, and I would like to specifically record the contribution that you personally have made in maintaining these communications at various levels between our two leaderships.
And the top leadership of Japan's Fuji Television have resigned weeks after a celebrity presenter was accused of sexual assault.
President Koichi Minato and Chairman Shuji Kano stepped down after the network staff were accused of trying to cover up the scandal. Now, a leading tabloid magazine reported last month that Masahiro Nakai, a J-pop megastar turned TV host, had performed a sexual act without a woman's consent back in 2023. The 52-year-old Nakai reportedly later paid the woman nearly $570,000 and the pair signed a non-disclosure agreement.
After network staff were accused of trying to cover up the scandal, dozens of brands, including McDonald's and Toyota, pulled their advertisements from the private broadcaster. And earlier this month, President Koichi Minato admitted that Fuji TV was aware of the Nakai scandal before it was reported by local media. The company denies claims that its staff were involved in organizing Nakai's meeting with a woman which allegedly took place at the star's home.
And shares of small cap companies spearheaded the sell-off in the country's broader equity market on Monday as investor morale took a hit from an economic slowdown and lackluster earnings.
And this adds to the pressure on the government to announce measures to boost domestic demand in the budget later this week. On MSCI's emerging market gauge, domestic shares were among the worst performers in Asia. 19 of the top 20 losers were Indian companies. The country's 9-year record rally is at risk as declining consumption casts a shadow over the market and the corporate earning outlook. The budget will be released on February 1st, providing investors with additional clues about government spending and the economy.
On Monday, the blue chip Sensex index crashed over 800 points. The broader Nifty index fell over 1% to fall to its lowest level since June and is on course for a fourth straight month of decline. Both benchmarks are down about 3% in January. India's fear of volatility gauge rose to its highest level since August as investors are clearly in a risk-off mood ahead of the budget.
An index of small cap stocks fell 3.7% on Monday, bringing its losses from the peak in September to over 17%. In January so far, foreign investors continued their flight from domestic shares, withdrawing about $7 billion. The feeling towards Indian shares has been poor. The subsequent reductions in valuations have not succeeded in luring foreign investors. Once again, domestic funds have outstripped foreign exodus. And India's defense landscape is undergoing a major shift as the country reduces its reliance on Russian military hardware.
Over the past decade, India has become the world's largest arms importer, accounting for nearly 10% of global imports from 2019 to 2023. However, the ongoing conflict in Ukraine has altered that dynamic, prompting India to court new Western allies like the United States, France, Israel and Germany. The country has secured multi-billion-dollar deals with these nations, including significant upcoming agreements for fighter jets and submarines. This reorientation is crucial as India prioritizes modernizing its military amid rising tensions following the 2020 border clash with China.
Now, India's efforts to build a stronger domestic arms industry are also bearing fruit. With a target of at least $100 billion in fresh contracts by 2033, the country is focused on boosting local production. Recent milestones include the opening of a new helicopter factory, the launch of its first homemade aircraft carrier, and successful hypersonic missile tests. Domestic arms industry also has seen a notable increase in exports, rising to $2.63 billion last year, and that's a 30-fold jump in just a decade. India is expected to further expand its global presence, and deals like the $450 million sale of supersonic cruise missiles to Indonesia.
Despite diversifying its sources of military hardware, Russia remains an important supplier for India, particularly in areas like cruise missiles and nuclear submarine technology. The share of arms imports from Russia has dropped from 76% in 2009 to 2013 to 36% in the period between 2019 and 2023. However, the relationship with Russia remains vital to India's defense strategy. This dual approach helps India mitigate risks while modernizing its military capabilities. And next up, let's get you updates from technology, starting with UK telecom giant TalkTalk, which is the latest company to come under a cyber attack. TalkTalk has confirmed that it is investigating a data breach after a hacker claimed to have stolen the personal information of millions of customers. A hacker who goes by the name Bond claims to have stolen the personal data of more than 18.8 million current and former TalkTalk subscribers. Now, this includes customers' personal data, including names, email addresses, IP addresses, phone numbers, and subscriber pins. The company, however, claims the 18.8 million figure is inaccurate and very significantly overstated. As per reports, the hacker managed to hack TalkTalk's third-party supplier's server responsible for subscription management. The European Medicines Agency, or EMA, has quit X and is now active on Blue Sky, instead becoming the latest organization to quit Elon Musk's social media platform.
Now, the agency released an official statement saying EMA will no longer post updates on content on X. We believe the X platform no longer suits our communication needs, is what they said. After careful consideration, the agency has decided to open an account on Blue Sky. Blue Sky, the emerging social media platform, has seen impressive growth in recent weeks. This surge follows a noticeable shift in user behavior, particularly after the U.S. presidential election, with many X-users concerned over the platform's content moderation and its evolving policies under Elon Musk's ownership.
Singapore is all set to introduce self-driving buses starting mid-2026. The Land Transport Authority has announced plans to launch a pilot program for autonomous public buses. In the first phase, these driverless buses will operate on select routes alongside existing manned bus services for the initial 3 years. During the first phase, the buses will operate with a driver on board as safety operators. The Singapore government has launched a proposal for bids on piloting the autonomous public bus fleet. The request for bids is expected to close in the second quarter of 2025, with the project being awarded by the end of the year.
Football star Neymar's disappointing spell at Saudi Pro League side Al Hilal is over. The 32-year-old parted ways by mutual consent after making just 7 appearances in 2 injury-ridden seasons.
The forward is now in line to secure a return to his boyhood club, Santos, in Brazil. Neymar joined Al Hilal for around $98 million from French champion PSG in the summer of 2023. Now, the former Barcelona striker suffered a torn anterior cruciate ligament in his left knee on international duty shortly after signing for Saudi Pro League side. He returned to action last October, but another hamstring injury kept him from making more of a contribution. Neymar scored just once during his time at Al Hilal. Neymar still remains the world's most expensive footballer, following his over $200 million move to PSG in 2017, and is now heavily linked to return to Brazil. The 32-year-old, who was on a reported wage of over $150 million per year, had around 7 months remaining on his contract with Al Hilal. Neymar has agreed to give up a significant portion of his salary to facilitate a move to Santos. He will reportedly forfeit between 25 to 30 million from the $65 million remaining in his contract. Neymar still remains one of the biggest names in football thanks to his exploits alongside Lionel Messi and Luis Suarez during his time with Barcelona from 2013 to 2017.
He won the Champions League, 2 La Liga titles during his time in Spain. Now let's quickly go through some news from the world of sports. Visitors England have named an unchanged playing sheet for the must-win third T20 international against India to be played on Tuesday. India lead the 5-match series 2-0. In both their victories, spinners have played a big part for the hosts. But England head coach Brendan McCullum has decided to play to their strengths, meaning Adil Rashid will be the Three Lions' only frontline spinner. Their batters have also struggled to handle spin except for certain Joe's Butler. None of the others have crossed the 50-run mark in the series.
Oh, that's gone. Top edge. It's done, dusted, Gim. Top edge, 6. 50.
Spain's Euro 2024 winning coach Luis de la Fuente extended his contract until 2028, which means he will be in charge of La Roja at the 2026 World Cup in the United States, Canada and Mexico, and Euro 2028 in Britain and Ireland. The 63-year-old has been in the post since 2022. He guided Spain to the Nations League title in 2023 and then to victory against England in last year's Euro final.
Former Belgian international Raja Nainggolan has been arrested as part of a cocaine trafficking probe. The 36-year-old was one of several suspects apprehended by Belgian police on Monday. The former AS Roma footballer allegedly trafficked cocaine from South America to Europe via through the port of Antwerp. World number 1 and world 2-time Australian Open winner Yannick Sinner will not defend his Rotterdam Open title. The Italian has said that he needs to rest after clinching his third major title on Sunday. World number 11 Grigor Dimitrov will also made out on Rotterdam after he was forced to retire injured from the Australian Open. Following Sinner's withdrawal, the fieldless Notre Dame will be headed by world number 3 Carlos Alcaraz.
Next up, let's get you the latest updates from entertainment. The live stream of Coldplay's Ahmedabad concert in India attracted 8.3 million views and accumulated 1.65 billion minutes of watch time during the 3-hour broadcast on the 26th of Jan. The British rock band's performance at Narendra Modi Stadium, which drew a massive crowd of over 134,000 attendees, kicked off with frontman Chris Martin greeting the audience both in Hindi and Gujarati. In a tribute to India's Republic Day celebrations, Martin also performed Vande Mataram and the country's national anthem.
Grammy-winning songwriter and actor Lady Gaga will release her 7th studio album on March 7th. As per her press release, the album will explore themes of chaos and transformation. The 14-track album has been titled Mayhem. It will follow last year's Harley Quinn, a companion album for the film Joker Folie à Deux that stalled at number 20 on the Billboard 200.
Marvel's upcoming film, Captain America Brave New World, enjoyed a launch in Rome. Actor Anthony Mackie posed for photographs. During the photo call for his film, Mackie was joined in the film by Harrison Ford, who gives his first performance in a Marvel film as the character Thaddeus. Captain America Brave New World is the latest installment in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The film is Mackie's first solo outing as the superhero Captain America. The move The movie will premiere in Italian cinemas on the 12th of Feb.
Right, time now to shift our focus onto the ongoing Sundance Film Festival in Utah.
British actor Benedict Cumberbatch walked the carpet for his latest film, The Thing with Feathers, at the festival. More about the star-studded premiere in this next report.
Message from this one is that grief it is a scary thing. It is something that we all universally will experience at some point or another. In whatever form it comes, it can be a toddler losing a toy, it can be a profound loss of a loved one, it can be a loss of opportunity. It doesn't necessarily have to be death, but it can be the idea that something that was there isn't there anymore, and that impermanence is just something that you have to accept, and grief is part of that.
Well, The Thing with Feathers is based on a beautiful book called Grief is a Thing with Feathers, which deals the story of a father and two young sons at the moment when they've just suddenly lost the mother of the house.
I think, for me, the film is very different to the book, but it has the same DNA and it has the same tone and it has the same compassion and kindness, but you know, in the very act of adapting, I'm putting some of myself into it.
And as heavy snowfall hits China, causing major traffic disruptions and closure of some highway entrances, a yellow blizzard warning has been issued.
And this at a time when there is already a huge travel rush for Chinese New Year. Take a look at these visuals. We leave you with this because we call a wrap to this bulletin. Don't go anywhere. News and updates will follow on the other side. You're watching WION World. Stay tuned.
Know more, understand better, think ahead. Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Get the facts, not the bombast. On the 26th of March, dynamic pricing, Baloch separatists, Gravitas cuts out the clutter. Gravitas keeps calm when others scream. Gravitas brings news to life. Weekdays, 9 p.m. IST, 3:30 p.m. GMT. Gravitas. Seeing is believing.
India's Budget 2025 is here. Will it fuel growth or deepen inflation's bite? Will it support the rupee and markets? From tax reforms to middle-class relief. We decode what's in it for you. Stay ahead with our expert analysis and global perspective.
The biggest gathering of humanity on the planet.
This is quite an interesting spot.
WION brings you exclusive coverage from the ground of the Kumbh Mela.
These bikes will be patrolling all around.
From security to infrastructure. From tent city to Sangam. We've got you covered. This is Tribeni Sangam, where Ganga, Yamuna and the mythical Saraswati rivers meet. Experience faith. Experience culture.
Tent as well.
Experience Mahakumbh. Only on WION. World is one.